even what the service is that they're looking for. If the profile is optimized, really well with those services, it might come up in a Google search from LinkedIn before their own company page might.
Oh, wow. Tradies and contractors making over $50,000 a month in revenue. I will guarantee you 30 qualified leads in the space of 90 days, or it is free. You heard that right. It's 30 qualified leads in the space of 90 days, or it's free. And you're probably sitting here thinking, what the heck? That's a 10x result on what I'm currently getting from my marketing. And that's the point. We have finally cracked the code. We've got this amazing new process. It is working, and we are absolutely rolling this out big time. Head across to tradie.wiki/offer. That's tradie.wiki/offer. Fill in the form, book a time to have a chat, and we look forward to helping you grow. Ciao. Kaylene, welcome to the Sideshed podcast.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having me.
We are here today to talk about my pet peeve platform, LinkedIn.
It's mine too sometimes. That can be very helpful as well.
Well, I'm definitely keen on learning how it can be helpful, because it just annoys the hell out of me, all the spammy outreach that I get every day through it.
Yeah, it's an interesting platform. It's funny, it's one of the slowest ones when you talk about like audience size and how often people are on it and interacting with it compared to, say, like Facebook and Instagram. But when you know how to use it and the value that it can bring the business, it can be quite helpful. So it is definitely an interesting platform.
Yeah, I know. It's you hear, it's one of those things, I suppose, when you try and compare it to other platforms like Facebook or whatever it might be, like from a marketer's perspective, like I always gravitate to things which probably don't correlate, like engagement and all the ego tickling things, like why didn't my post get any likes and why
Yeah.
and then when you partner that with the amount of like just cheesy outreach that you get on, which is always the same shit. It's always, I see we have so-and-so in common. Thought we'd connect. It's like, shut up. So I would love to hear, and I know for certain, like there's so many of our audience out there that share similar hates towards the platform, but I'd love to hear how it could be useful towards some of these guys. I know we've got some, commercial customers work in that commercial space.
Yep.
And it's a good source of lead generation for them when you're targeting those, business related avatars.
Yeah. It definitely is, like from a commercial perspective, the place to be. But the guys that you work with that are in the residential space, obviously Facebook and Instagram are much better platforms. And the annoying part about LinkedIn as well is if you're running ads and boosting your content into a targeted audience, the cost per click is a lot higher on LinkedIn.
It's insane. Yeah,
it's so expensive. But it's one of those things. We've got clients in construction and the volume is nowhere near what it is on Facebook, the number of impressions, the number of clicks and all that kind of stuff. But the quality of the lead that they're getting, and they're not, obviously in construction, you don't need as many leads as like, if you're selling lipstick or dresses or stuff like that. So the quality is there, but it's, it's a slower process and a slower burn through the advertising channels on LinkedIn than say Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, I know we've had mixed results with it, even doing it ourselves. We just found it very expensive, and I guess again probably trying to draw comparisons between the two platforms, which I don't know if you can really. I mean, at the end of the day, you can from an ROI point of view, but when you're trying to gauge the metrics that are kind of called the same thing, and it looks like one leaves the other for dead.
Yeah, I agree with you, and residentially speaking, I could argue as well, because like if you're in the residential game, Facebook and Insta are definitely the places to play and spend the money. But if you're sharing your content across all your socials, I'd actually put it on LinkedIn anyway, even if you are just in that residential space, because people personally are on there, checking stuff and whatever. And if they've got a need for the service, then that's, they're not getting as heavily inundated on LinkedIn as they are on Facebook and Instagram. So you might just be able to sort of slip through the cracks, from a residential perspective. But commercially, I think LinkedIn definitely has some strengths that the others don't, but also too, if you're looking for commercial, promotion, etc., even putting that stuff on Facebook and Instagram is always going to be a win, because people are on those platforms more often and for longer periods of time. So if you've got the right product at the right time for the right person and you're disrupting their personal time, they're probably going to pay attention to what you're putting forward because you're speaking to their needs, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that in that regard, it's sort of one thing we always practice with our clients. Like, if you've got the content, you can share it anywhere, but if you haven't got it, then you can't share it anywhere. So get in the habit of collating it,
Yeah.
especially like photos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess the disheartening thing that we've had a lot of our clients experience in the past, and us ourselves, is you just put so much effort into creating content sometimes, and just when you publish it on LinkedIn, it just seems to get nowhere near the engagement that it would anywhere else, which I think leads and whether but that doesn't always mean it hasn't been seen. It just means that sometimes people don't don't engage with it the same way on that platform.
100%. Like I had an experience over the weekend. We're looking for a building designer. So I went into Instagram and searched, and he didn't pay anything to hit my news feed. I just searched different clients. We reached out to 3. One looks like the best fit. And just because he was posting content, that's how he got the job. And I think the thing with LinkedIn as well is, commercially, if you're working in that space and you're sharing content regularly, even though people aren't interacting with you, doesn't mean that they're not seeing it. So it's if you've created a piece of content, like you said before, share it on all the platforms, because if you're looking in that commercial space, even though people aren't interacting with it, doesn't mean that they haven't seen it, and it doesn't mean that it's not working on that, the brain imprint, the 5 to 7 touch points, all that kind of stuff. When you're talking about a sales cycle, it is having an impact. It's just harder to measure, especially when there's no interaction, and sometimes it doesn't seem obvious. But the benefit of these platforms, and LinkedIn in particular, is the search capability. So if your clients, and they're playing in that commercial space, they've optimized their profile really well, they could show up in a Google search before they show up in a normal organic SEO search, because LinkedIn has a much higher domain authority than, say, most people's business websites. So if your clients are have a really well optimized company profile and also their personal profile, the search capability, sometimes you'll type in someone's name if they know the name, or the business name, or even what the service is that they're looking for. If the profile is optimized, really well with those services, it might come up in a Google search from LinkedIn before their own company page might.
Oh, wow. I mean, I've seen that with names and things like that. I've never seen it for a business. I'd be concerned if LinkedIn was if Google was indexing LinkedIn for my business name over my website.
Well, it's interesting, but if you think about it, though, like, because LinkedIn's such a massive platform, it makes sense. I mean, it's probably got millions, if not billions, of pages, versus most, companies' size websites are somewhere between 20 to sort of 50 pages for the average small business. So it's possible, right?
So why don't we just dive in, I suppose, to, I mean, like, in today's landscape, where the low-hanging fruit areas opportunity are for, trade businesses, and how they can leverage the platform.
Yeah. So I guess the first point of call is going back to optimizing that profile. So making sure your headline's got search terms in it that make sense. So what are your clients looking for? Make sure that's in the headline section. With the summary section, we see this a lot on profiles, personal profiles, as well as company profiles. Most people just put a paragraph or two in because they don't like writing or they don't want to talk about themselves or whatever. But you've got about 2,000 characters in that space to put in, how you help clients, what are their pain points, who you've worked with in the past. If you're allowed to name drop, then do so, especially if they're big brands. If not, the type of industries you're working with, that type of thing. And just optimize the services. You can even go in bullet points on this is what we do, and if they're search friendly terms, you've just sort of optimized that section and try and use those 2,000 characters as much as you can. And then in the experience section on your profile where you list yourself employed in the business, you've got another 2,000 characters there that you can flesh out with other keywords. So if you're just optimizing your profile as much as possible, you're just making yourself more visible online. And then if you've got creator mode turned on and you're the business is turning up in publications from a PR perspective, or your content, you can sort of push your content more into that space. It just makes you that much more visible, another step ahead. So that's the first point of call I would look at. Make sure your personal profile is up to speed, and also the company page. Make sure it's on brand. So if someone Googles you and then they go and check you out on social, it looks the same as the website, and obviously the same as that on Facebook and Instagram as well.
I was going to ask you about company pages actually, because I know we have company pages, and I don't know why we even bother, to be honest. Like I feel like everything's geared towards the personal page. Like I get an okay amount of engagement on my own page, I suppose, where we share a lot of content, but the business page itself is kind of like MySpace.
Yeah. It's funny because you're right. Like when people personally interact, and we see it sometimes when you share the same post on your personal profile as well as your company profile. The personal profile gets usually more interaction because it's a person, right? So people that want to interact with other people. But the company profile may have followers that aren't following you personally. And there's a whole other range of different things that are happening on the company page that aren't happening on the personal page. So like we said before, if you're sharing content to all platforms, put it on your personal profile and then put it also on your company page. And if you can get your employees to like the posts, whether it's personal profile or company page, that's always going to sort of feed the algorithm to get that content up and out there.
I do find the algorithms considerably less advanced than the likes of, Meta and, all these other things. I just feel like you can get away with a lot more, and it's kind of like, I feel like LinkedIn's like SEO in 2007, like you can just keyword stuffing and you can get away with all this stuff.
Yep.
that you really shouldn't be allowed to do.
I agree with you, actually. It does seem like I guess it's not as legally annoying as Facebook. Like, sometimes you'll put pictures on Facebook and you just get pinged for the most ridiculous stuff, like absolutely insane. So, yeah, you're right. You can do, I feel like that too. You can do a lot more. And even the search, like say you're doing boosting of ads, like when you're boosting on Facebook and you're boosting into interests and demographics, it's sometimes that can be a bit vague. Whereas on LinkedIn, you've got job title, geography. It's very straightforward. Headcount, like how big's the company you want to deal with? What are some of the keywords we don't want to hit? Like, you've just got a lot more logical search capability in LinkedIn than maybe you get in Facebook when you're boosting stuff. But also when you're searching. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like when you're, like say you want to do a lead generation campaign, which you can't do in Facebook as straightforward as you can in LinkedIn. It's so much more advanced you can get down to the buyer persona at a personal level, but also the company persona. Whereas on Facebook and Instagram, if you're trying to hit particular types of companies, not always so easy to target them as it is on LinkedIn. So, yeah.
It's very much, I feel like, where that whole Facebook and Insta and whatever are very much B2C, whereas the main advantages in my experience have always been B2B, or if not B2B, certainly B2C in this, but searching for professional or avatar, like if you're in recruitment, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like we've had okay, I won't say amazing, but we've had okay
results in the past with like recruitment-based advertising on LinkedIn and target, like you say, being able to target specifically into like verticals, interest, businesses, you know, that kind of stuff directly. Whereas you can't really do that on Facebook.
Exactly. You can also target people. Like, so if you go on LinkedIn and you wanted to, you know, do a bit of a manual lead generation campaign, and you know what companies you want to work with, and you know the job title of the person you want to talk to, you can reach out directly on LinkedIn, whereas you can't do that on Facebook unless you're friends. So, you know, with a sales navigator profile on LinkedIn, you can actually connect to 30 people that you're not actually connected to. So you don't even need to be connected to them to reach out to them. And, you know, you can make those kind of conversations quite more personal, I guess, than if you were using, say, an automation process to do the lead gen side of things.
Yeah, and I guess this is where I'd love to get some insight from you on how you can do that in a way that is not just straight up spam, because I just feel like it's probably my number one hate in LinkedIn is those consistent people trying to reach out and just straight up flog you something that you do not care about.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a few things you can do to not appear like that's what you're doing. But then on the plus side of that is if you've got your script and it, you know, you're not going to be able to please all of the people. Like some people are going to see your stuff and think it just looks like spam anyway, so they'll be annoyed. But the key with that is the volume. So with automation tools, you can be sending out 80 connection requests a day, right? That may have changed recently to 50, but at the moment we're still able to sort of send out 80 a day. So if you're sending out 80 a day and you've got a 20 to 25% connection rate, you're sort of connecting with 100 new people a week, roughly. So give or take, what about during the week? And that's the volume. So the volume will get you the results. So we say 8 to 10 sales qualified leads per month, but usually what we're seeing for clients is about 20 to 40, depending on the audience, depending on the service and the product, all of that kind of stuff. And some industries have higher and lower results.
I mean, I guess the thing is though, right? Like we talk about volume, but in it, very rarely in our experience is it ever a case of volume. It's, you know, and truthfully, the majority of stuff that we do in the lead gen space now for businesses is about less volume and better quality.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you'd attack that on LinkedIn, because everything I see is just like that. It's like people trying to just outreach volume with these cheesy messages.
Yeah, yeah. A couple of ways you can potentially go about it is start following the people that you want to, you know, start reaching out to, commenting on their posts, giving feedback, all that kind of stuff, to sort of build that slow relationship up, I guess. Then you can do a reach out. You can compliment them on something, like send them a note saying, I really enjoyed whatever, potentially start conversations that way. But that's a much slower process than, you know, say if you're doing an automation process and you've got a 3 email sequence, it's the law of averages, right? If say you've got 20 to 40 leads, they're not all going to be good quality for you. So you break them down. So you've got, you know, the couple of good quality ones that you want to work with, and then you keep doing that. So you keep your pipelines consistent. But if you wanted to take a slower approach, starting out by, as you would in a bar, complimenting people on how they look.
Oh.
Building things up over time.
Bit of an insight into your past here, Kaylene.
Maybe a couple of dates, you know.
Oh, then what?
That's, you know, if you put it into real world terms, that's another way you can approach. Another really cool thing I heard the other week was polls. So polls work really well on LinkedIn, right? So think about what your clients care about. Like say you're in roofing as an example, and you want to talk to commercial clients or architects or whoever it is you're wanting to reach out to. What sort of things do they want to know about in that space that's going to help them? So if you then start creating polls, reaching out to them directly and saying, hey, we're doing this survey, we would love your feedback because you're in the industry, here's the link to the poll, feel free to put your feedback in, and what we're going to do at the end of the you might have 5 questions, 10 questions, whatever it is, create like an infographic results spreadsheet and send that back to them, and then that can start conversations as well. So getting people to participate in things is a good way to sort of, do that warm reach out as well, to, not be so volume focused, I guess, more personalized. If you can personalize it as much as possible, that can often help. The other thing I was going to say to you as well is, if you don't want to go to the trouble of setting up automation tools and all that kind of stuff, because that can be quite expensive, you can use the message advertising feature in LinkedIn and have a similar approach. So say your company is doing a trade show day or an event, or you just want to reach out to people, or you want them to read something on the side, or you've got a case study, something that's valuable to them to share, you do that through the message ad. So it looks like a message, but it's an ad. You're not having to set up automation and doing a whole lot of expensive, tool acquisition. You can just get straight into that advertising platform and do it that way.
Yeah, there's so many different tools available on LinkedIn, isn't there? From like Sales Navigator through to all these different things.
Yeah.
It all adds up too.
It does, and it can be expensive. But if you've got like Sales Navigator, I think it's about $114 a month now. The information you can get, and even if you don't use LinkedIn to reach out to those people, you might just do the research on the companies and the people you want to talk to, is invaluable. And then if you set it to a monthly charge, do what you need to do in that, get all the search and the research you need, pull it out, and then just turn it off, so you're not got that consistent spend. Don't do what we've done a couple of times and leave it on the annual, because you get the big chunk up front.
You're pretty much talking to me right now. I'm going to log in right now and just unsubscribe from that, because I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's good if you use it, but
Yep.
I guess you just got to have the defined, like, a process in place in order to make sure it's worthwhile, and a strategy. Like, you got to have some sort of, if you're going to use it to its capacity, have a strategy in place to make sure that you can actually, like, you can define what a win looks like.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably so many people out there similar to myself just don't really use it. I mean, I don't even know why I've got Sales Navigator. I never use it. Maybe my staff do. I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting though, like if you think about like with the content side of it, I think a lot of people in the trade space have awesome opportunities. Like, people want to see what you're doing. Why did you use that particular product or service, or what are ways to prevent stuff from happening, like all of that kind of stuff. And taking photos live on site or videos on site, like that stuff's really interesting to people, because it's people and it's real stuff and problems that you're solving day to day. And I mean, I think a lot of business owners think that what they've got to say is boring, but it's probably those boring details that are really the clincher for a lot of people, that like, oh my goodness, that's fantastic,
Yeah, we say this to all our clients. Like, don't think for a second that what you do is boring, because to someone that's interested in that service, it's extremely interesting.
Exactly.
I mean, that's business though, isn't it? You and I sit here and think that what we do day to day is pretty boring, but then when you got people who are like, oh wow, you can do that, like, it's actually,
yeah,
it's just boring because we do it day in, day out.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So in relation to, I suppose, when we've kind of touched on it, like which avatar it better suits, I know there's a lot of like engineers, strata, business managers, like that kind of stuff, like drafting, architects, and that kind of thing, that leverage platforms. So perhaps if you've got a business that, you know, integrates with that sort of vertical, then it could be quite useful.
Yep.
Is that generally your experience? And otherwise, you'd probably steer them to a different platform, more that's sort of more consumer related?
Yeah, I guess so. Also, building products, products that work in that space are good on LinkedIn. But yeah, for services that are sort of more B2C or residential, definitely, your Facebook and your Instas are your place and your TikToks, I guess, your places to play in. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
I found out I found out we have 2 TikTok channels apparently. I said to my team, I'm like, I don't mind if you want to do it, but I'm not doing TikTok. So apparently we have TikTok. There's 2 of them. I don't know. Anyway,
Well done.
so I have to get work on one of my routines.
Indeed, you have to get your dance moves up.
Question: what about? I know in LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure anyway. There's like groups.
Mm-hmm.
Is that sort of like LinkedIn's answer to Facebook groups and communities, that kind of thing?
Yes, it is, because if you start, like, think about where your target audience is, what groups are they likely to be in? And then if you can go and join those groups, what that means is your content has the opportunity of landing in their newsfeed, because even though you might not be connected with them, you're connected via a group. And depending on the settings, like if they're in a group and the group settings is, please email me when something happens in this group or whatever, your content has an opportunity of being emailed directly to a target person that's part of that group. So I think you can join up to 100 groups on LinkedIn. So if you've got 100 extra spaces or communities where your target audience is playing and your content organically lands in those groups, then great. It's just a bigger reach for your content to potentially go out to that you didn't have to pay for, which is fantastic.
Does LinkedIn still have the connection limits, like on how many?
Yeah. And it changes all the time. Like when we first started doing like automated lead gen, you could send out 100 a day, and then it got knocked down to 80. I believe it's possibly 50 now. But they never tell you when they make a change, right? So this is the trouble with this space. Like when the social platforms make a change, they don't tell you until you have to find out the hard way.
No, but I mean, in terms of like, you can only be like 1-to-1 connected with, I think it's 5,000 people or something like that in LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So like I get requests all the time and I can't accept them because we've maxed that out years ago.
Right. I'll have to start following you.
Or I don't know. I don't know why I don't use it, and I very publicly dislike it. So,
it's because people want to get to know you.
But I found that strange how they like maximize your connections, because like I don't know why they would do that. But anyway.
Yeah, I guess they've maybe got server limitations or something. I don't know, but yeah, they always have had the rules around that, and they do change. It'll be interesting to see how it changes moving forward, because now they're owned by Microsoft. It'll be it's watch this space. I think there should be some interesting stuff happening, but maybe not as fast as Twitter, hey, with Elon Musk.
X.
X, yeah.
I was going to say ChatGPT, but I suppose Microsoft own a pretty big chunk of that too. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses.
But interesting, like if you look at Twitter, Elon Musk has only taken over that 6 months ago, whereas I think LinkedIn's been owned by Microsoft for a year or 18 months. Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see. It's a bigger beast, I guess. So we'll see what they come up with.
Yeah, that's one thing I found never really got much saturation in the trade space, especially in Australia, Twitter.
Yep. It's really one of those platforms, I think, that unless you're in media or you're a celebrity, in Australia in particular, it doesn't really get that much traction. And also too, one thing it is really good for is if you are at trade shows, a lot of the trade events and things like that tend to interact through Twitter. I think just because it's quicker and whatever. So they'll usually have like a hashtag or something for the event. So if you're, posting stuff at the event or whatever, and people are, all joining in, you can usually sort of pick up a lot of great contacts that way. So who's responding to the other tweets, go and grab their names. Who's interacting with your tweets, go and grab their name. Like there's a lot of, good ways you can pick up potential new clients, especially if you're at a trade event, through Twitter that you wouldn't normally. So that's really how we tell our clients to sort of really use Twitter, is post your stuff to it if you're doing it anyway. Don't really rely on it as a platform that's going to give you a return. But if you are at a trade event or a show that's got, your target audience at it, etc., and they're using a hashtag, interact with it, and you'll pick up a lot of, opportunities, I guess, to talk to people that are at the event. You can even, tweet them at the event and say, hey, we'd love to see you over at stand whatever, and maybe they'll come and see you. The other thing that is really good for that organic sort of traction is the hashtags on LinkedIn, because they are actually communities. So like if you do a hashtag search within LinkedIn, it'll tell you how many thousands of people are following that hashtag. So if you've got a post and it's got, hashtag community 1, which has got 5,000 people, and hashtag community 2, which has got 10,000 people, and you're not boosting that, organically, anyone that's following those hashtags, your stuff could land in their feed. So it's all about just sort of keeping yourself visible in news feeds as much as possible and as big as possible, I guess, can just help. I mean, all of the little tweaks that you do help. It's just the consistency is the key.
Yeah, I suppose it's just one of those things. If it's the right avatar, then I guess it's a pretty good vehicle. I've found in the past it hasn't really served us that very well. I guess mainly because of most of our clients, or even though, I mean, see, this is the thing, right? Like we're B2B strictly.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
we've never got any work really through LinkedIn. I mean, that's probably not true. Maybe a little bit, but and we have decent amounts of posting, I guess, to LinkedIn through like the podcast and that kind of stuff. But maybe we just haven't used it properly. I just feel like it's been a bit of a waste. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess we do have some clients that, again, in that industrial commercial space, and they do a lot of their outreach and stuff like that on there through Navigator and whatever. But
yeah, well, now you can do your emails too. So, like if your clients are emailing out to their database regularly, they can set that same content up on LinkedIn and email the clients that way. So people can join their email online. So they could start, a database within LinkedIn and also the one that they've got in their MailChimp account or whatever it is that they're using to send out their emails. Just another way of kind of multi-purposing the content so you don't have to redo new stuff all the time.
Just a way of spamming one person across 15 different platforms at once.
That's it. We love it.
All right, cool.
Spam to you is not spam to someone else. Remember that.
I mean, I did find that we had at one point we were using some of those syndication tools, like your Buffer and Hootsuite and whatever, and we just found that all of a sudden someone just gets like 10 notifications pop up on their phone at the same time for the same bit of content across 3, 4 or 5 different platforms, and you're like, this is just the worst experience. So we just canned that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I mean, I guess it's like the ongoing evolution. I'd say if you guys are out there and you are in that sort of B2B space, it's probably something worth considering.
100%, yeah. But also
get more.
So sorry, I was just going to say, like we've got clients that aren't doing lead gen on LinkedIn; they're just doing content because they don't need like lots of leads, like you said before, and they're getting opportunities because people are seeing their stuff. So it could just be that softly approach. If you've got a decent audience size that's following you, that might be enough just to keep that consistency going if you really do only need, leads every so often.
Oh man, the perfect unicorn trade client that actually proactively create content. I'd love to.
That's why you're there.
Oh no, it is. It's true, and we do a lot of it. But man, sometimes it's pretty hard work getting it out of them. But yeah, again, like I just say to you guys, if you've got the content, you can use it. If you don't have it, you can't use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, good chat. Watch this space, I suppose. We'll see what happens in coming years as the platform evolves with the backing of Microsoft. And whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll definitely change and keep us on our toes for many years to come.
No doubt. During which time there'll probably be 4 or 5 more social platforms that are out there to compete with it.
Absolutely.
Cool, awesome. Well, look, thanks so much for the time. I'll put some links and everything to the show notes where people get hold of you. So that'll be, if you guys are keen on learning more about LinkedIn as outreach, then I'll link out to Kaylene's website and stuff in the show notes.
Excellent. Thanks, Matt.
Beautiful. Thanks for your time. Much appreciated.
No worries. Have a great day.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the SiteShed podcast. If you like the sound of 30 qualified proposals in the space of 90 days, I just want to recap. head across to tradie.wiki/offer. Watch the videos, fill in the form, and make sure you book a time to have a chat with me. This is for businesses that are making $50,000 a month in revenue, are located in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or the USA, and you're a trade business or a contractor that works with project-based work. Head across to tradie.wiki/offer. Yes, I realize it sounds too good to be true. Trust me, it works. Do it now. I look forward to chatting to you soon. Ciao.